Well, it is that time once again to be taking a look at yet another B&M exclusive Doctor Who action figure collector set. In today's review, History of the Daleks set 14, featuring two Necros Daleks from the 6th Doctor story, Revelation of the Daleks, in this lovely white and gold colour scheme. Both of the Daleks are identical, making this set perfect for army building, and it has of course been released as a part of the September 2023 B&M range. Well, would you look at that, the packaging is different. It's white and gold this time, and it now has the 60th anniversary logo on it, so let's take a look at it in a little bit more detail. I must admit, I didn't really like it when this was first announced, but seeing these sets in store on the shelf with this style guide, they really stand out, and they actually look quite cool. At the very bottom of the box, we have the title of the set, which is History of the Daleks Set 14. And at the top of the box, it handily states that these are Daleks from Revelation of the Daleks, so they have decided to skip Resurrection of the Daleks. So yeah, I think they have completely decided to get rid of the chronological order thing. No idea, don't think I have the energy to care either. Hopefully we will see them return to that story in the future though, because I would like to see some more 80s Daleks, especially given how many 60s ones we got. I feel like the shelf needs balancing out a bit. Above the title card, we now have the seemingly traditional limited edition B&M exclusive sticker. Features bubbles are off to the side. This is of course a part of the 5.5/14cm scale collector series. Above this, the features bubbles. Next to the title card, it also states that these Daleks are from the best Doctor Who era. That is of course the 6th Doctor era, for those of you that are unaware. Thirdly, there is a little bit of inconsistency, as on the also released around this time period, History of the Daleks set 13, it doesn't state that that set is from the 5th Doctor era. Lovely vibrant blue TARDIS graphic is presented in the corner, and this also extends around to the side. The 60th anniversary logo is of course present on the top corner, although we have this triangular box out which does somewhat obscure the view of the figures. Speaking of obscuring the view, we have the return of the singular plastic tray covering both of the action figures. We don't have the protective window anymore. As I've mentioned before in previous reviews, I do not like this. I think it really obscures the view of the figures themselves. It also makes it a bit more difficult to notice any quality control issues. Does have to be commended because this does make the packaging 100% recyclable. It is something that I am slowly adjusting to, but it will sadly never look as nice as it once did. Despite my criticisms of this packaging, quite frankly, anything is better than whatever this is going on here. At least the figures are somewhat protected. So flipping around to the side of the box now, we have a continuation of this lovely, stylish white and gold design. It is so exciting to see the 6th Doctor's name on an action figure release after all these years. And of course, just above this, a repetition of the title of the set and the Doctor Who logo looking incredibly bold. As for the opposite side of the box, again, a lovely continuation of the same design elements. Much like the older releases, the vast majority of the company information has been limited to the bottom of the box. Flipping the box set upwards to take a look at the lid, we have a lovely white background with the Doctor Who logo present in the centre, again really standing out, and this looks lovely on the shop shelf. Around to the back now, we have lots of familiar design elements. Era is presented at the bottom, accompanied with some copyright information. Doctor Who logo there shining away at the top. There is a brief story synopsis for Revelation of the Daleks. And as always, a great touch, we have a little bit of behind the scenes information going into detail about the props themselves. There we are, that's the packaging, and you know what, I am really surprised how quickly I have came to love this design, and I can't wait to see it utilised further in the future. Once you have opened the box, it reveals this rather lovely tray with this blue vortex in the background, making the figures stand out quite a lot. It's just a shame that this has to be damaged in order to get the Daleks out of the box. Well, you know when you've reached 80s Doctor Who, when the Daleks turn white and gold, how lovely and vibrant. Both of these Daleks are indeed exactly the same, making this set perfect for army building. It also makes life much easier for me because it means throughout the entirety of this review I only really need to take a look at one Dalek. However, I will probably hop between the two just for the sake of variety. So for the benefit of the longer term collectors, I'm going to start off this review immediately with a comparison to one of the older Necros Dalek releases, this one from the Sound Effects Daleks range, which is on the left. For the most part, the Dalek does look considerably similar, however the colour palette overall has seen a little bit of an upgrade. The earlier released Necros Dalek features an incredibly vibrant white as the base colour, whilst the 2023 variation sports a much more cream finish. All of the gold paint application on the earlier releases is also much more dazzling, whilst the newest version sports a darker, more subtle, almost bronzy finish. Other changes include a brand new sculpted eye stalk, a slight variation upon the dome lights, some altered paint application on the manipulator arm, as well as both the sucker and the gun, both sporting that more vibrant goldy design, as well as of course the big selling point being this brand new collar section. The other big change is the midsection. This is in fact a brand new sculpt, but we will be taking a closer look at this in a bit. Regardless of all of these slight amendments, I think they all still look great together. It's not like there's some really obvious changes. If anything, in fact, the 2023 versions are more in keeping with a similar colour palette to the 7th Doctor era Remembrance Imperial Daleks, with the colours slightly toned down. So very much like basically all of the 1980s classic Dalek releases, the fender has been divided into the two-stack formation. Bottom section is of course a matte black, and then just above this we have the slightly larger white section. Due to the rest of the Dalek body being this white/cream colour, it does really stand out, this black fender, but also kind of makes the Dalek look like it's hovering in an unusual way. And tilting the Dalek upwards for a moment, we are greeted by of course the matte base, as well as the company information there, 2 wheels at the back and the usual rotating wheel at the front. I imagine the vast majority of people watching this review are already incredibly familiar with what a classic Dalek toy skirt looks like, and it is the same sculpt as you would expect, and the paint application on this is in fact really impressive. Out of all the colour schemes that the Daleks have, I think the white and gold design shows up the most paint leaks, and it has to be said that the hemispheres are all incredibly neatly painted, shining away with that lovely golden finish. Something of which that for this paint job alone I highly recommend going into store and picking this set up by hand if you have the opportunity to do so. At least something of which that does show up quite easily is the plastic seam there of the mould running up the centre. This is also somewhat present on the back, although can't really be helped. Rather handily, very much like how the packaging does state, sadly the skirt section on the Dalek isn't particularly too accurate to what is seen within the story. The 80s Daleks are indeed a brand new mould, whilst this Dalek does of course borrow exactly the same sculpt to every other Dalek, so it is quite inaccurate proportion-wise to what's seen on screen. I would love to see a proper version one day, however at this stage I think it's very unlikely. Moving further up the Dalek now to the midsection, we have a continuation of the stunning white and gold colour scheme. Very much like the hemispheres, I'm absolutely blown away by the paint application on these solar slats. Again, this is really neat. Each individual slat has been given a lovely dash of white paint, and the sculpting also has the presence of a rivet there, of course, at the bottom and top. And in between this, we have the lovely mesh design, so the same texturing to usual, and of course the golden design behind this. Solar slats are of course ever so slightly smaller towards the front, and that leads us to the brand new section. But before that, I would like to say in fact with the entirety of this wave, I have been really impressed overall with the quality control, and the paint seems to actually be some of the best that we've seen in years. But as I've already mentioned, the skirt of the Dalek is the incorrect proportions, meaning what character options have attempted to do is sculpt a new midsection to make it more angular, and therefore make the Dalek look a bit more like what is seen within the story. So in the very centre we have this oval section, which is much more pronounced compared to usual Dalek releases. But not only that, this little lip section here just before the skirt is also more pronounced and angular. And I do believe that exactly the same thing can also be said for the weaponry housing. In fact, doing a little bit of a comparison to the also released within this wave Gallifrey Death Zone Dalek, you may be able to tell that overall the design of this is of course the same regular Dalek sculpt, but everything about it just seems a bit less angular and compared to our latest 2023 Necros Dalek. It goes without saying of course that this new midsection comes with both of the Daleks within this set. Taking a look at the weaponry now, starting off with the manipulator arm, this follows exactly the same sculpt to usual, but it has been given a truly 80s finish. Much like the other gold sections within the Dalek, this is of course much shinier compared to the previous releases. As for the trusty plunger, this is a regular matte black. The gun stick now is exactly the same sculpt to usual, and it has also been given this lovely bronzy finish. Something of which that I have been a bit concerned by with the recent B&M exclusive Daleks has been the material that the appendages are made out of, because we've had a few Daleks where these have been so flimsy I've basically not wanted to move them. So I am rather happy to report that they appear to have gone back to a decent material, meaning the appendages are indeed made of a nice sturdy plastic. There is still a little bit of bend to them, but it's not as concerning as some of the previous releases. Bringing in the second Dalek within my set, sadly he wasn't so lucky, and he does in fact have a bent out of shape gun. This is partly due to the way that the figure has been packaged, but also because of the product's flexibility. So yeah, it's not too flexible, and it's certainly not as flexible as the older Daleks within the range, but again, it's something to look out for. A rather unusual thing with these Necros Daleks is the entire idea is kind of to make this sculpt look like something that it isn't. As we move up just before the neck bin, we have the inclusion of the brand new collar section, which has this lovely golden colouring, and it gives that illusion that this Dalek is ever so slightly taller. In fact, it is by a few millimetres, and it somewhat represents what is seen within the TV serial. It does create some distinguishing factors visually, and I do like that they've done it. I think it definitely adds both value to the original release for being different, but also attempts to make a more accurate figure with the most recent version. That said, this figure will never be like the TV prop because it's completely out of proportion, but at least Character have done something to at least make it look more like the one from the actual televised story, and I appreciate that effort. It's something of which that I feel like had this set came out last year, we probably wouldn't have got it. Given that it is such a new thing, I feel like I should be making more of a fuss of this amendment, but it's a golden collar at the end of the day, and that's basically it. It's also featured on the accompanying set of the Gallifrey Death Zone Dalek, although I think its inclusion is a bit more subtle here, so who knows, it might be a new thing going forward. I have the presentation of the usual neck bin, which follows exactly the same sculpt to usual, so no surprises here. Centre design has this lovely mesh texturing which really makes it stand out, especially with that golden paint application. The individual discs there are also present in the centre, and I would like to compliment this Dalek actually because the individual pillars running up the side are also nicely aligned, which is something that the B&M series has previously struggled with. Lovely creamy white colouring does of course continue onto the Dalek's dome, and inclusion of the eye stalk and the dome lights, this time round both of which have received a little bit of a regeneration. So firstly, the dome lights, I must admit the changes to these is borderline unnoticeable. To be honest, it might not even actually be a brand new sculpt. It does look like a new sculpt, but I'm unsure now I've said that. Rather sharp paint application on the bulb that I really appreciate actually is that very thin black line running around the base. It's basically the same ridged Mini Cooper dome light, except it's slightly more cone-shaped in design with lots of lovely ridges. Tilting it upwards slightly there, you might be able to tell it does seem to have just a little bit more of a point to it. It's a comparison to the Sound Effects Necros Dalek, and it is a very similar idea, just it's a bit more squat, and the fact that I even noticed this change is seriously making me question my life choices. Seriously, does anyone ever question how much of their brain space is taken up by completely useless and irrelevant Doctor Who knowledge? Stalks now, we have a brand new sculpt. Although it is roughly the same idea to the previous 80s Dalek releases, it's just a bit more elongated. The base discs, as well as the stalk of the eye stalk, is painted the same white or creamy white, and I love the way that the individual discs have been spaced on, the end of which has also been given a dot of white, complemented with that tiny little black pupil in the centre. Again, switching back to the Sound Effects original Necros Dalek, this in fact sports a very unusual eye stalk. It's stumpy, roughly the same idea, however just a lot smaller, and of course we have the pupil at the end there as well, with a really big surface area, so to be quite honest, I prefer the 2023 version more. So there we have it, that is another collector set from the history of the Daleks series, and this series continues to be a great representation of classic series Doctor Who Dalek props, going in somewhat chronological order. This set is rather self-explanatory. It's great for army building, and it's great to have more white and gold Daleks within the collection. They are my personal favourite colour scheme from the entirety of Doctor Who, and of course the Necros Daleks have previously been variants that have been quite hard to come by, so I imagine people who didn't collect the originals will probably be more excited by this set than those who did. Likewise though, this set does indeed sport a number of worthy changes, from the new collar section, the new dome lights, the amended midsection, to also make it a worthy addition to your collection if you do have those original versions, whilst also sporting a slightly revised colour scheme. So it's a lovely combination of new and old, albeit still not necessarily the most exciting set in the world. So thank you very much for watching this review. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Do of course stay tuned on The Host Productions for regular Doctor Who content. Have a nice day. I shall see you all next time.